All right, and welcome to Hattrick Sports Talk, our weekly Sunday post show. I guess this is technically our Thanksgiving special. I'm here as always with Shane and Brannan. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, doing well. How about you?
Good, good.
Pretty good.
How was your guys' Thanksgiving?
Good, good. Indulged in all the turkey and the
Gobble gobble.
and the stuffing and the potatoes and gravy, vegetables. Now I'm getting hungry. Anyways, and of course pumpkin pie. You can't forget about that.
Oh,
You
definitely.
cannot forget about that pumpkin pie. I had apple pie and pumpkin pie,
Ooh.
so double up.
I'll
on
take that. It's very American.
I made an apple pie.
What was that process like? You've been making a lot of food. Follow Brandon on Instagram at Brandon Widdis for
My Instagram has kind of turned into a little bit of a
foodgram, I guess you would call it.
I'm like a country girl's Instagram now. It's like I've got a bunch of like pictures and like look at what I'm making. So
Oh, that works.
yeah.
Yep.
That and cats. So
That and cats. That's perfect.
kind of my aesthetic.
Kind of your aesthetic. Let's get started with the games this week. Actually, before we get started on the games this week, let's see. I want to pull something up here really quick. Let's see. So it is 2020, and I guess when you're talking about probably one of the worst years of our lifetime, we haven't really looked too deeply in sort of the wackiness that is sports in 2020. So let's talk about that real quick. Obviously, this Packers game today was terrible. We'll get to why in a second. But here's Rob Dombrowski, ESPN reporter, I believe NFL Nation reporter. Here was the scene at Green Bay today. Just friends or family of the players and coaches from the Packers side. Your guys' thoughts on this scene? Because I thought it was like really eye-opening. Because obviously we haven't spoken a lot about the fans. We hear the what is it? The TV pump-in crowd on the broadcast, but to see this visually kind of sets a huge tone for something that honestly we haven't talked about in a few weeks. But what were your guys' sort of instant thoughts of this image?
I think Shane put it the best where he said it looks like a high school stadium, just a bunch of people on a Friday night just chilling in a stadium, like preparing to watch a game. Just like it's weird. But also it makes me realize just how small Lambeau Field is compared to like the modern day stadiums. I mean, look at it. It's tiny compared to like the
80,000 people.
Yeah, but
Full
like
capacity.
I mean, think about like stadiums like in Minnesota or in Dallas.
U.S. Bank or
giant
AT&T.
stadiums.
Yep.
I mean, ain't nobody holding a concert there in the wintertime.
No, to me. I described it more as like it's like for a game for like 10-year-olds. When you go or whatever middle schoolers where there's just like a couple bleachers and there's people, parents sitting in them or whatever, and it's about that many people. At least in a high school stadium, you kind of get people packed in there, and I mean it is like a stadium technically, but I don't know. And then I was joking around with these guys saying, I wish they would do like an NFL game this year on TV and like an official one that was just in like some city's local park football field thing.
Hey, we might get that with the Niners in Arizona.
Yeah. Like that would be really funny, and that would honestly be really cool to see.
I think it'd be hilarious to see like just a random pickup game with like NFL players just doing like.
That's basically what it would be.
Yeah,
like that's what the Pro Bowl should be.
Yeah.
in
And the locker
future.
room is like the snack shack off to the side or something.
Just kind of like a pick'em game of football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was just strange. I mean, you're right, Brandon, in that the stadium is much smaller compared to the newer ones that we see today. But the Packers haven't had fans. This is the first game this season they've had fans, and obviously Lambeau Leap's been incredibly weird with no one in the background. But this once again just shows how strange this year has been. But props to all of the players and coaches' families for being out there in 34-degree weather.
Yeah. So, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
The comments are kind of funny.
Yeah.
Now that I'm looking over at them.
There's some that you can see on this screen. Yeah. I mean, Twitter's Twitter, right?
Oh, yeah. You know.
And then before we get to the game, let's actually take a closer look at the playoff picture as it stands currently.
Jeez.
I specifically want to focus on the 7th seed right now, as that seems to be shaking up a little bit. Let's let this load really quick. That 7th seed seems to be shaking up a little bit. So where we're at with the 7 seeds, let's go to the NFC first. We got the Bucks, the Cardinals, and the Rams, who all lost today. And the bubble teams, the Vikings, I believe, had a good win today against Tampa, against Carolina, which was pretty crazy. And then, of course, the Bears. How do you guys feel like this is going to shake out now? Because it seems like the positioning is going to change, and maybe your thoughts on a couple of these teams has changed, maybe particularly Arizona or LA potentially. What are your guys' thoughts on where the 7 seed and the bubble is kind of at here?
To be honest, I think the Cardinals are the team out of both the Rams and the Arizona is the team that looked to show the most falter going down the line. I mean, they just don't have the fight, and like, this is a bad Patriots team. Like, the Cardinals should have won this game. To be fair, though, the Patriots did get really lucky on that last drive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they got one big play, then they got a helmet-to-helmet penalty, then they got some other stuff that led them all the way down for them to kick field goal.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams, see, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's going to be a situation of the Rams, now that they're 7-4, we don't really like the Seahawks are in a better position than the Rams because they don't even have to care about a tiebreaker here, because if the Rams lose if the Rams lose 2 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we lose 1, we don't have to worry about that.
Shane, am I correct in saying that the Seahawks have the easiest schedule over the next, let's say, 5 weeks? Is it about like the easiest or close to the easiest?
I mean, I think it is the easiest, according to most people. I mean, they got
Philly tomorrow,
and then New York, back to back,
New York
at home.
Washington.
Yeah, well, Washington, they're not a great team, but
that defense is nasty.
Yeah,
the defensive line.
Defense is really good. I think they'll give them some trouble. Then after that, it's LA and then San Francisco. Is that right?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah. But dang, like the NFC East being that bad, like it is the easiest schedule. I mean, they're probably even for. I mean, the next few weeks, like obviously we're gonna be pretty happy with the Seahawks defense, I would imagine. But this is an opportunity for that defense to get better with this easy schedule. But realistically, they should have an easy time with the NFC West just based off that schedule alone, right?
Yeah. I mean, you would think. But this is the NFC West. It's quite crazy. Anything could happen. Yeah, I mean, I do think Seattle wins this division because the thing about LA and Arizona is I think LA, they very well could win the division. However, I mean, defensively they're really good. I don't think anyone's denying that. But offensively, they're just so up and down. You never
They're
ever know.
inconsistent. I figured them out. They're
Yeah.
inconsistent. That's it.
I mean, yeah, they're not predictable at all. Sometimes you have a game like the one against Tampa where Jared Goff throws 50 times and just has an absolute field day, and then you get games like these where he throws 2 picks and he just looks like it's his first NFL game ever.
Well, yeah.
And it's just I just don't know. I don't know why they are so inconsistent. Maybe it's because of him. I don't really think it's Sean McVay. I think he's a pretty smart coach.
Hang on there, Shane. Let me ask this question though.
Okay, yeah.
So compare this offense, because obviously it seems different to me, just conceptually. I'm not sure verbiage wise, but compare this offense, how Sean McVay's run this offense, potentially in play calling or all these different things, to that team that made to the Super Bowl that year against the Patriots, because it does look much different.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is not having Todd Gurley, because he kind of declined last year, partly because of injuries. But that year when they made it to the Super Bowl, he was the best back in the NFL. He was just dominant. I mean, nobody could stop him. He would, they would give it to him 30, 35 times a game, and he'd get 100 yards every time. And so, not that they need him necessarily, but I think now that they don't have that really consistent runner like him, it's hurt them, because now they're realizing, now I am realizing that Goff isn't always the most trustworthy passer, because not that his arm mechanics are bad. I think he has a very good arm, actually, but I just don't think he makes the best decisions all the time. So it's tough. I mean, I think they're making best of the situation they're in, but I don't think that this is really sustainable going forward. I don't think Sean, or not Sean McVay. I don't think Jared Goff is the right guy for them going forward. And I think they need another, really consistent power runner back there to be able to go between the tackles and get the heavy yards, which, I mean, they kind of have, but not really. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got like 3 guys in there that they're all kind of juggling around.
Right. They have a good committee, but it's not as succinct, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good committee of like B minus guys, instead of Gurley, who was like an A plus for them in whatever year that was, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the biggest thing for me. Defensively, I don't really worry about them. I think they're pretty good. I mean, they're a little weak at linebacker, but their defensive line, Aaron Donald. I mean, I think Aaron Donald is one of the top 3 players in the NFL, and Jalen Ramsey has been a great addition for them. Their secondary looks pretty solid. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Goff and just not having a consistent run game that's really hurting them in the end.
Brandon, I'll go over to you at the AFC side. Obviously, we talked a lot about the Colts last week in the AFC South. Obviously, the Titans with Derrick Henry balled out today. What are your thoughts on both the Titans and the Colts? in this battle for division supremacy in the South.
Yeah, I think obviously the Titans all year. I'll say this: I felt like the Titans were like a little bit like phonies at the beginning. They lost some games that I feel like they should have won. But this was a pretty dominant message. However, I still don't see them as the all-around team because they just rely so much on Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's why I
They
don't
just
like about him either.
rely so much on him to win. And honestly, I think the only team in the AFC that's balanced is the Chiefs. The Steelers throw it, and yes, they can run it, but they throw it all over the yard. The Titans, they run it all over. The Bills, I don't even know what they're up to. The Browns are fluky. And the Dolphins are good, but they're not there yet. And
they're not ready for prime time.
They have kind of a low ceiling, I think, the Dolphins.
And the Colts, they're a really good defensive team and a pretty terrible offensive team. So, yeah, I mean...
Yeah, their offense isn't there every week. And then the Ravens, obviously, we said a lot about them. How about the Browns, though? Like, obviously, they've had a bunch of weird, bad weather games at home the last 2 weeks, as we talked about. Now in Jacksonville, obviously it's Jacksonville, but the fact that they were playing in 70-80-degree weather, they could actually throw the ball all over the yard. Baker said he still kind of expects more from himself and the team. What do you make of those comments, but also kind of where this Browns team is at?
I mean, it's a fair comment considering these are their scores for the year. They lost to the Ravens 38-6, and then they won. They beat the Bengals 35-30, beat the Browns 34-20, beat the Cowboys 49-38, beat the Colts 32-23, got blown out by the Steelers, beat the Bengals by 3, Raiders beat them, beat the Browns by 3, beat the Eagles by 3. Well, no, not 3, by 5. And then they beat the Jaguars by 2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, this is honestly, this is what the Browns should have been the last couple of years. Like, this is a team that's they figured out how to win the games they're supposed to win, but they're not doing it in a dominant fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really believe in this Browns team. Like, yes, they'll make the playoff. Like, round of applause for them. Good job.
Finally. Took you forever.
Took you forever. But, like, I would argue good luck in a regular season, Browns, when, like, every team has all their players. Because I would argue the AFC, when every team in the AFC has all their players back, I don't think the Browns make the playoffs when they're playing full like. Because you look at the NFC, and most of the NFC has all their players, all their key players. AFC is pretty lacking in some of their key players.
Yeah. My thing overall with the Browns is they need to have an identity, and their identity is running the ball. They didn't do it that today. And it was really, I was like, okay, fine. Like, it's the Jags. I get it. But you have to stick with this identity. This team is about running the ball with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They have to continue doing that, I think, if they want to be even competitive in the playoffs. Sure. I think they're going to have a tough time with the top 4 teams up here.
And they need to keep their ego in check, too.
I don't think that's been too much of a problem this year.
No,
I really
not.
don't.
I'm just saying that is something you have to watch for.
Well, I mean, I would argue one of the things is OBJ went out pretty early.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that adds to it for sure. Let's talk about this Packers game. Obviously, we've already said what needs to be said with the Bears. I mean, honestly, what are your thoughts on the Packers after this game? Definitely a good game by the defense, but offensively,
Yeah.
they're what we thought they were all year.
There's nothing really to talk about, I think, here because they're pretty much. It was like it's a pretty generic Packers versus Bears game the last couple of years. Same thing has happened. They beat up on them. They do their thing. They run the ball pretty easily, and then they throw it, and then they win. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a good Bears team. It's a mediocre. Well, not mediocre is unfair. It's a not great Packers team.
I'd say good.
It's like okay Packers team.
Why do you say it's okay? Are you worried about
Because
that defense?
I've seen better Packers teams come and go. It's yeah, I'm a little worried about. I'll say this: it's an okay to good team. Like the offense, when it wants to perform, is like quite good. But the problem is when it runs into good defenses, it's gonna go nowhere.
Like Tampa.
Like yeah,
Tampa.
Well,
I
they
mean,
only scored 10 points.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That could have been a fluke game, though.
I don't know if
Just-
that was really a
I-
fluke game.
I don't know. I've seen the Packers be like very on this year, and I've also seen them be very, very off. I don't know if, to be honest, I don't think I have a single team in the NFC that I like feel like super strong about.
Yeah, me
Because I think
neither. I don't
every
like the
team-
NFC.
I think every team has been up and every team has been down, and that's including the Seahawks. Like
I have one.
what?
Saints.
I don't like the Saints
even
at
the
all.
Saints, man. Like
I
they,
don't like this. I
they-
don't like them at all.
I think the Saints. I would have said that when they still had Drew Brees, but like
I thought even when they
He-
had Drew Brees, they
he's-
were bad.
he's not coming back for the playoffs, my dude. I mean,
Are you
like
sure?
the way he talked, he's serious. He knows it's something more than just some broken ribs.
It's 11.
That's a
I don't know,
lot
he said
of fuck.
4-week recovery, but
I would put money that it's not going to be 4 weeks.
yeah, no, that's fair.
I think it's the rest of the season. I think he comes back for the playoffs. But even if he
Especially
does,
considering the
this
Saints.
offense isn't good.
Yeah.
It's not consistent at all. It's just honestly, this whole offense, even with Drew Brees all year, has just been Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara. That's it.
Basically, I think if you're a team and you could get into that group of 7, anybody from the NFC could find their way to the
Other than the
playoffs,
NFC
to the
East.
Super Bowl. Yeah, other than like whoever comes out, which by the way is the Giants right now.
Do you? So the Giants are your rant for this segment. So go ahead.
Okay. Let me just get in the mindset.
You have to talk about the Giants this week because they're the leaders.
I will say
yeah.
this while you're thinking. I think it's funny because at the beginning of the year, we were all thinking, myself included, that this division, like not before the year, but after a few weeks, and we had kind of seen things, we were all thinking it would be either Dallas or Philly. But I think now, at least for me, I feel like it's more between New York and Washington.
Yeah.
Which I was
Probably
not
Washington.
expecting.
Probably.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Anyways.
once again, we are here talking about the NFC least. The NFC East.
Is that
We-
the name of this segment? The NFC least.
Yes, the NFC
Sure,
least.
let's coin it.
We are forced week after week to put ourselves through watching this trash heap of a division.
We were forced to watch it on Thanksgiving.
Yes, on the most sacred of holidays, on the day we are to
My
give
second favorite
thanks-
holiday.
the day we were to give thanks. I was forced. I literally said, I cannot do this, and I walked away from the television, and I did not watch the Redskins versus or the Washington football team, excuse me, versus the Cowboys.
The day where we give thanks, and so the NFL gave us a middle finger.
They kicked us in the trot.
Well, it was done before the season.
But anyway, I digress.
A good game, anyways.
Today we were given the Giants versus the Bengals, a game that was actually, in my opinion, not a trash fire.
It was really fun, actually. I'm
not that
gonna
terrible of a game. And I would quite actually say good job to the Giants. However, it does not take away from the fact that they are still forcing us to the idea that there will be one team from this terrible, terrible division that the best teams have four. Four. Not one, not two, not three, but only 4 wins on the season. At this point, I believe at this point, the best that these teams could do is end their season with like 7 wins, I think.
7?
I think that's the best.
Well, don't be so generous now.
Season with. It's not going to happen, but...
And this is why I've been saying since the birth of Jesus that
that's far,
because I've definitely been alive for that long, that this whole thing of having to have the top 4 seeds be the 4 division winners is stupid with 2 O's. Okay, because then this happens.
And here's the thing about the Giants, right? The Giants, not only are they in this division, not only are they leading, but now they are leading the division without their starting quarterback.
Colt McCoy is going to start the next 2 weeks. Book it.
So it makes it even better. We have the NFC East with a trash division with trash quarterbacks, and now Colt McCoy.
It looks like Colt McCoy is going to start the next 2 weeks. I don't think we'll see Daniel Jones on the field.
I swear, I'm going to have an aneurysm. This division is going to kill me.
We're going to have to watch it on national TV
NFL.
On Monday night.
Just stop it.
Next week.
Just stop it.
Washington's going to win this division. Washington's going to win this division. Yep.
Well, yeah, especially if Colt McCoy is playing. Yeah.
No, well, okay, but hang on. Let's say it's only for 2 weeks. Maybe that isn't the case. I'm just making that prediction.
Yeah. Fair.
Look at Washington and their defensive line. I don't care if it was Dallas. They played like that all year, and I think they've been the number 1 pass defense in the NFL.
They are the number 1 pass defense. Which is surprising, but it's
amazing. They're going to win this division just because of that defense. And they might win it with 7 wins, probably.
Yeah, Alex Smith still isn't terrible.
Comeback player of the year, right? So
yeah, should be. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Washington wins this division easily. Let's go backwards again to Thanksgiving, or at least a couple days after Thanksgiving. The Lions. We thought this was going to turn out better. Matt Patricia and the GM, I believe, Caldwell, both got fired. Actually, I believe they got fired. Yeah, they got fired on Saturday. Shane, your recollection on this Lions team, where we actually thought they would be pretty competitive, considering what we saw last year with Matt Stafford kind of taking a even more noticeable leap than past years.
Well, yeah, it's frustrating because, I mean, I was hoping Detroit would be better this year, but I'm not surprised that they aren't, because I just had this feeling that regardless of having Stafford back or whatever the case is, that this just wouldn't really go well, because they just can't seem to get the front office right. And, this was just, this team is this team is weird for me because I feel like they've been on the cusp of being playoff contenders for like 10 years. Yeah, they just always fall a little flat or fall all out flat, other than that one year where I think they got like a wild card but then lost. But anyways, it's I just feel bad for Matt Stafford mostly. He's been there for
12 years.
12 years. I think he's perhaps the most underrated quarterback in NFL history. And I feel like they have wasted his career. And granted, he could have gone somewhere else if he wanted to.
No, he probably couldn't. Franchise tag, all that mess. You're a quarterback for one. Like it's virtually impossible.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I would argue that it was that Stafford made the mistake of like not becoming a free agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
like,
how that would have.
He should have just taken the chance. I mean, I'm sure he could have found.
Oh, tons of people would have taken him.
Any other team, I feel like, would have taken him.
Yeah.
He just. He's not a. I just feel like they are never in. Maybe not never, but they're not. They're just going in circles right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like when your quarterback is not able to play up to like it. First of all, I feel like Matt Patricia never understood what he was supposed to be doing.
Well, I think
he got rid of all the good players like right away.
Well, I think ultimately it was a culture thing. Like Shane and I talked about this all year last year on the show. We were like, dang, Patricia's building a culture and this looks really good. And I think last year was kind of the first year. I was like, whoa, Stafford. Okay. I kind of started realizing, yeah, okay, this guy's really underrated. But I thought they were building something there. And then this year it just kind of all went downhill. And honestly, I'm kind of as clueless as everyone else is. I just don't understand what went wrong. Because it felt like there was progress with Patricia. I felt like there was something happening there.
Did it first.
I thought it all last year. And then it just, I don't know. I'm honestly straight up just clueless. I don't understand what went wrong.
Yeah. I know it's weird, but I guess you just go forward from here, see what else you can do now. I mean,
right.
I don't know.
But again, with any of these organizations, right? And we're talking about Miami, another Bill Belichick, Stipe and Brian Flores, and what he's doing in building that culture or trying to build that winning culture in Miami. At least with Belichick and his coaching tree, at least one thing that we've seen is that ability to build cultures, but I guess it might be more than that. But with the Lions, I mean, we've seen this with so many other teams. It's, so many of those teams in the bottom half that are consistently in the bottom half. It's hard to get a coach right. And, luckily the Lions gave Patricia time. I mean, they gave him the time to figure it out. And that's what makes it all the more frustrating. Because now I think the new coach, whoever it will be, is going to be on a much shorter leash to get this team right, and they're not in a spot for that.
Yeah.
So as it is every week, there always seems to be some weird games, weird situations in the NFL. This Saints Broncos game was by far the weirdest and honestly most depressing game this year. So obviously the story with Denver is they have cases of COVID, and their practice squad wide receiver Kendall Hilton, who played 4 games, mind you, 4 games as a starter as a freshman at Wake Forest, 1 of 9, 13 yards, 2 picks. The first time in NFL history, maybe since the 80s that's happened. It's honestly just a depressing situation. We were expecting the Broncos to absolutely just do nothing in this game because, I mean, Hilton, what more can you expect from him as a practice squad wide receiver? I mean, they were put in a position to fail. And, I mean, what we saw was at the beginning a little fun because, I mean, they had some wacky play calls and stuff. But as the game went on, it was just an absolute, just, I don't know, cluster. And it was just kind of really hard to watch. Or actually not even kind of, just in general really hard to watch. Brandon, your thoughts on Denver's performance today?
I don't even know if it was hard to watch. It was just kind of pointless to watch because there was no way Denver was going to win that game. Like, it was basically, I would argue, like, the amount of time. So I was watching Red Zone today, right? I would imagine the amount of time that they spent on that game was maybe like 10 minutes out of the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, mostly it's because...
Mostly the beginning because we were so interested in what was going on.
Mostly because Kansas City kept scoring every, like, 3 seconds, it seemed. But, yeah, It's like... The only reason I think the score was lower than I thought it would be is Denver's defense is somewhat good.
It's like middle of the pack now.
It's middle of the pack. And so they were able to, like, the reason they gave up so many points right off the bat is because they were throwing interceptions and giving short yardage. I would argue the score would have been lower if they didn't give up so many short yardage plays or turnover into short yardage situations.
Mm-hmm. Shane, your thoughts on the Broncos and really that terrible situation today?
Yeah, that was just not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. But even though he was terrible, honestly, like, give that guy a hand just for
sure
for stepping up and actually doing that against a pretty good defense, if we're being honest. And I mean, it's like the guy knew that nothing was going to go their way for that game, yet he was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'll might not be pretty, but I'll try. And well, it definitely was not pretty, but
Yeah, and I would say give the old double deuces to the actual quarterbacks for Denver, who put themselves in a situation like,
it's so difficult for me with what happened with Denver.
I'm sorry, Robert. No. There's nothing difficult about the situation.
For me, it is.
As their coach said, you are the leaders of this team. You are the freaking quarterbacks. Your job is to follow the protocol. And I don't want to hear any of this nonsense about them saying, oh, we thought we were in a safe environment. No, you were on the field.
Well, I mean, I empathize with Drew Lock a little bit here and what he said, because I think with COVID at this point, I think where we're at, unfortunately, with this point is that it's impossible.
No.
Because even if you do, like, honestly, even as he said in his tweet, if you do everything right the majority of the time, you can still get it.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Robert, here's the thing. If you wear the fucking mask, which it doesn't take that long to put it on, then you can go and talk to him. Guess what happens? If you wear the mask and the other person comes out with COVID symptoms, guess what? You are not in the situation you are in now.
Right, but even so, they were in a socially distanced area. It's just hard for me to, like, I'm just going to, like, flame them because, like, I'm not at that point with it. I'm not going to
flame them, but I'm going to say they were irresponsible as the leaders of the team.
Again, if they did everything right the majority of the time, I don't know what I'm supposed to say to that other than it's kind of
just... That they fucked up.
It's kind of just... It feels to me like it's bad luck. It feels like bad luck.
Robert, it's not bad luck. They
It does.
intentionally no.
It does, because I don't know what more you're supposed to do.
Put on a
That's
mask.
what I'm having it right. But like, yes, putting on a mask is important and all this stuff. But like, I empathize with what he's saying. It's like, if you do everything, that's what's so weird about this virus to me, just as a whole. You can do everything right 90% of the time and not 10% of the time, and the 10% of the time costs you.
But that's
hard.
the thing, Robert. That's the thing. The point is, you follow the protocol. You have the mask with you. You put the mask on. You do what you're supposed to do. You do what the league has told you from the beginning of the season. I'm sorry. I've said this before, Robert. They are not only sports, they are not only part of a team, but they are also looked at from the outside world about how you are supposed to go about doing things. This is not, I repeat, this is not a, oh, too bad, it's sucks to suck situation. This is a situation where that proves why you put your mask on when you're in an interaction.
But look, I'm not denying that. Absolutely, you're correct. But I'm not compare the Ravens situation and the Titans situation to this. The Ravens and Titans situation where they're at now is much worse than the situation the Broncos are in. So for me, if I look at the Broncos situation, I look at that and go, okay, yeah, they didn't follow the protocol, but at least clearly it seems that they followed it the majority of the time. And luckily, considering the protocol, it's like if someone tests positive, you all go into quarantine and all this stuff. So at least that's done correctly. But that's the difference.
What happens if his test doesn't? It ends up not working, and like it for some reason was to have tested the quarterback for the other team as a negative. Then he takes it to his team, and guess what? Now you do have a situation.
Right. But I think, look even with Arizona, with Larry Fitzgerald and all this stuff. Like, it's something that unfortunately is becoming more common in the league. So what I'm looking at more is the outbreaks of these entire teams and those situations. That I'm more frustrated with than what the Broncos are going through with their quarterbacks. I'm not as frustrated with that because I feel like it's just something that's it's hard. It's hard.
I
feel
have
like it's
no
just hard.
sympathy for professional players who can't take 2 seconds to put their mask on. I don't have sympathy for anybody who can't take 2 seconds to put their mask on. Because, frankly, I am as sick of this shit as everybody else is. But guess what? It's been made very clear by many scientists that if everybody wears their mask whenever they're in a situation, we can squash this stuff.
Right. And I'm fully with you. I'm fully with you.
But here's the thing. You're basically saying, as when a whole team does it, it's one thing, but when 2 people have a situation, it's completely different.
Not that it's completely different. I am not saying necessarily that's completely different, and I'm not denying the mask thing. That's obviously incredibly important. What I'm saying is that, in what Drew Lock said, I can understand that. Right? I can understand where he's coming from. It's like, even if you're doing it the majority of the time, something could still go wrong. And I think I'm more empathizing with what he said and how he approached it as an adult, saying, hey, my bad, that's my point here.
I personally feel like he's full of shit, but whatever.
That's my ultimate point. Is you look at the quarterbacks from Denver, you look at Larry Fitzgerald, you look at all that stuff where it's like these semi-isolated cases that I can empathize more with than all the teams having these massive outbreaks, because that's a whole team not controlling a situation. Does that make sense, Shane?
Yeah, do you
understand my point? Do you understand my point?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle between you two, because it's like, I like you're saying, it's just like a case between these few guys who didn't do the proper protocols, but the team after it happened is now taking the proper steps going forward, at least as far as we know. that's better than, like the Titans or whatever,
The Ravens now.
where they continued to have workouts knowing that guys were getting it, and so, for that reason, it's like, okay, yeah, sure, but it still shouldn't have happened at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So it's like, so yeah, it's just, it is frustrating. But I mean,
I think
people will do what they're gonna do. So
I think ultimately my thought process through this whole week in the NFL is that this thing is just, especially for this entire league, it's just extremely difficult, and it's evolving and it's changing just as we're seeing in our day-to-day lives. And I think that this week in the NFL in particular, over any other week, showed that in its highest potential. And it showed, obviously, what Brannan said about the importance of mask wearing and social distancing and all this stuff that we're doing every day, even with us doing the show on Zoom, right? So, but at the same time, I think it shows just how wacky and how difficult this is. I can only imagine what the teams are going through every day, trying to figure this out, trying to navigate it, because it's so difficult. Raheem Mostert talked about this in his post-game press conference, how he hasn't seen his family and all that stuff to play. It's a massive sacrifice, and I think it's just the NFL has done a really good job, but it has been difficult, and every week kind of has its own challenges,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just tough when there's, this is a new thing for the NFL to have to deal with, even though we've been in this pandemic for obviously a while now. It's still, it's not like the NFL has had to deal with this in the past,
Mm-hmm.
So it is in a way a learning curve for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's been bumpy, but at the end of the day, we've been able to keep the season going and keep the players safe. So, nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But,
and it is interesting, right? Where we've seen this a lot in the MLB as well. The Miami Marlins had that outbreak earlier in the year. And then, of course, the NBA coming back in about a month's time. It's going to be really interesting to see how these different leagues handle this situation, because they're not in a bubble, right? This is the NBA's first experience not being in a bubble. How is that going to work? It clearly is a difficult process for every league, not only here in the U.S., but around the world. So, it's going to be interesting to see how it's handled, but it's become, I think, tougher and tougher for everybody, fans, teams, players, coaches, the commissioner, everyone in the front office at all these leagues, because it really is an ever-growing process, and I think that's something to keep in mind as we go forward.
Yeah. And it is, yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, it is, it does affect everybody in the world. Especially in the U.S., where we're a bunch of idiots and we can't get it under control. But it does affect everybody. Anyways,
all right, let's go to a little bit lighter and funnier topic. The Jets are 0-11. Are they going to win a game?
No. But actually, let me see their remaining schedule here.
Are they going to win, and are they actually going to win a game this year? Because I looked at their record and I was like, wait, they're actually 0-11. So is there a chance that they win a game? Because I don't know.
Oh yeah, no way. They got here's their remaining schedule. They got Vegas, at Seattle, at the Rams, Cleveland, and at New England. I think the only one of all those that they have even a slim chance of winning is New England, but even that seems unlikely to me.
Brandon, your thoughts? The Jets win a game this year?
I don't think so. They've just been such a, I don't know how to put it. They just haven't. They're not old there. Like, they don't play as, they don't click, and it just, no.
Yeah, I think that's the weirdest part about the Jets is you feel in watching them play, just like how, oh my God, like how unorganized they look.
I'd like to
They're
see
not
them
in
play
sync.
last year's LSU team. No, I'm not even kidding. I
Are
actually
we gonna
would.
get into this?
No, I actually would. Like that would be interesting.
Do you think they would win?
Who?
LSU?
Considering some of them are pros now, maybe.
A good majority.
I mean, even though
Why is this even a conversation
was
anymore, bro?
because that team last year was basically a pro team.
Why is this a conversation?
I don't know. I mean, if they did play a college, like if they played, if the New York Jets played this year's Alabama, New York Jets would probably win. I would hope, because they are still a professional team. So
Yeah.
somehow.
Brandon, your thoughts on this? Do you think last year's LSU team can beat this Jets team, or do you think this conversation is wild?
You know, I'll be honest. I used to have the same thoughts about the Browns.
Oh my God.
and
I
Bama.
used to be like, oh, they should play Bama because Bama would totally beat them. But at the end of the day, I gotta say this:
They're still a pro team.
they're still a pro team, and there's only so many players from a college team that get picked to go pro.
Yeah.
And as good as that pro team, as good as LSU was, they were at the top of the tower in terms of college football. As shitty as the Jets are, I still think they would beat LSU.
I don't know, actually. I'm looking at their roster right now. And they got Justin Jefferson,
Right,
Joe
who's been balling
Burrow,
this year?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay, that's a great offensive trio already. That's already better than what the Jets have. They got Damian Lewis at guard, who is having some starting experience. He's doing okay. Who else do they got? Oh, Patrick Queen. Okay, so they got some defense too.
I'm pulling up their roster
Man,
from LSU's
this
website.
is wow.
Kerry Vincent, who's been good. I mean, the Grant Delpit. I don't know how much playing time he's got this year, but I'm very excited to watch him. Yeah, I don't. Caleb Chason, who's been pretty good this year for Jacksonville, who gets.
And they probably wouldn't win, but it'd probably be competitive. I think. I
I don't know. I think.
I don't know.
I don't know. Looking at this roster compared to the Jets, I feel like the Jets would win by about 24.
See, I only bring this up because the Jets are just such a depressing topic that I need to bring some humor into it, so.
I mean, honestly, the reason why we bring them up in general is just humor. Because at this point, I don't know what to make of it other than they need to get rid of Adam Gase and figure something out.
Really?
Lloyd Cushenberry, who's been good. Do you realize that Philip Lindsay has never gotten a fumble in his NFL career?
Really?
Nope. Lloyd Cushenberry got that fumble on his stat line, which is incredible. Okay, so I have a problem with another coaching staff or one coach in the NFL today that I didn't have a problem with before today, but I saw, people complaining about this guy for weeks, and I didn't really realize why until I watched this game. Anthony Lynn, what are you doing? Oh my God, what are you doing? Anthony Lynn. I know in real life, I suck at situational awareness. This is something that I need to work on. In terms of football, this man has no situational awareness whatsoever. What was that? There was a fourth down. He calls a timeout on fourth down just to punt it. And then he called another timeout sometime in the fourth quarter. I think it was to punt it as well or something else. But, oh, my God, the situational awareness, the clock management in this game. I don't understand. And for the Chargers to be this bad where they're losing these games that are winnable. You can make an argument that a good portion of these games, including today, that they probably should have won or had a, 70% chance to win even today. It was brutal, and this game showed why. I don't know. I don't think fire Anthony Lynn's the move. I'm not there yet, but he's got to figure out how to better coach this team from a time management and situational perspective. Shane, your thoughts?
I think the Chargers have the talent to be much better than they've shown. I think it's just ultimately when I watch them, to me, it just comes down to bad coaching decisions. And Anthony Lynn, whenever I watch his press conferences, I don't like him. I don't know. He just seems like some gruff old guy that Jeffrey Wright would play in a crime movie, where it's which Brannan, you know what I'm talking about? It's just
yeah, sort of.
Yeah. It's somebody asked him a question, he's just like,
but to be fair, he has a team that sucks.
The team isn't bad though. That's my problem.
My
problem is they can win.
That bad. I mean, their offensive line is terrible. Their running back situation was bad, but then Austin Eckler came back around. Now it's doing better. But and then defensively, they will hopefully have what's the safety's name? Who's out this year? James.
Derwin James. I mean, hopefully he's back and healthy because
hopefully because
he runs that defense. He runs that defense.
Yeah, they have a decent defensive line, and I think their safety or their secondary becomes a little better once he's involved. So I don't know. And Hunter Henry too, and the receiving core in general is great. I think it's a coaching thing, to be honest with you. I don't fire him yet, but I don't know. So who do you hire instead of him? You know what I mean?
Okay, wait. So hang on. Here's the sort of summary point before I go to Brandon's thoughts on this. They beat the Bengals by 3. Next week they lost to the Chiefs by 3. Panthers by 4. Lost by 7 basically to the Bucks. 3 of the Saints. 1 against the Jags by 10. Lost to the Broncos on a last second play by 1. Raiders by 4 or 5. Dolphins by basically a touchdown, beat the Jets, and then lost today by 10 to the Bills. You could make an argument that every game Justin Herbert started this year was winnable.
Yeah.
Was winnable. They could be in a playoff spot right now and be pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, their favorite pastime is blowing games at the end.
Yeah.
They really enjoy losing games that they should
They're
win.
becoming the Falcons.
Which is funny because the Falcons are actually kind of started to impress me a little bit.
Before we go to the Falcons, Brandon, give me your overall thoughts on sort of this Anthony Lynn conversation.
I mean, I've thought about it a little bit, and the pieces they have are there. You just have to think that in the future, Herbert becomes a little bit more polished as a pro, and he's able to carry the team to the wins. Because that's the thing. My thing with them is they're a young team, and it comes across as a team that doesn't know how to pull out the dubs to finish.
Do you think that's Anthony Lynn's prerogative in your mind?
I do a little bit, because I think the coach that's part of the job of the coach, is to teach a team how to finish. I mean, hell, that's one of the reasons why I think the Seahawks are so good at finishing in the fourth quarter, is the whole idea of you can't win a game in the first, can't win in the second, can't win in the third, you win in the fourth. Like,
Well, and like Pete and Russ, I mean, you watch them on the sidelines, they're just like positivity, positivity, positivity.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like always. They could be down by 20 points in the fourth quarter after Russell just threw a pick six and he goes on the sidelines. He's like, all right, let's go. We got this. Yeah,
Right.
Like,
That Bills game's a good example. At least during the game,
Yeah.
there was a lot of that.
yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I think, and I don't, yeah. Because the thing about Herbert is like, separate the win-loss record and the team around the quarterback and just look at them and how they play individually, kind of production that they can put up. Like, honestly, I think Herbert, if he's not already, I think he could be like a top 10 quarterback in the league. And that's with this less than desirable situation he's in, with all these losses and everything. So I mean, I think if you not gave him, but if you had if you had an actual like good coach, again, I don't know who that would be, but if you had somebody who could really teach these guys to finish and to be a leader, be a positive leader, Anthony Lynn. And if you can, teach them how to finish and to just develop and mature together, because this is a young team. I think this could be a really dangerous organization, especially considering that the Chiefs, yeah, they're amazing right now, but in 3 or 4 years, are they going to be that great after they lose everybody from cap value? I mean, think about it. So
It could be. It could be.
I don't know.
So Shane as well. I think, looking back at Anthony Lynn, just thinking more critically about it, we talked about this once Herbert started. This idea that he was that Anthony Lynn was more about Tyrod Taylor and that was his guy and all that, and he was talking about the losses and the fact that Herbert didn't win a game and all that stuff. Is that sort of maybe still there with this team in some way? Maybe there isn't full confidence in Herbert from this coaching staff.
I mean, I think so. Anthony Lynn was the last person on this planet to be convinced that he was a starter. So, I mean, there was what, 3 weeks after that game where he was like, "No, he's not our starter. No." It was like, dude, come on. But I think as well, it's when you've lost so many games like this, especially close games, it does wear down on you mentally. And especially later on in the season, now that they kind of know they're not really in the playoff race anymore, that it's hard to stay motivated and continue playing at a high level like that. So I don't blame them necessarily at this point, but it's just too bad that they got here in the first place, because I mean, if they'd won, they have, what do they have, 8 losses? Yeah. If they'd won at least half of those, they would be 7-4.
Yeah.
Which that puts them right there in the wild card discussion.
That's what they should be right now. Realistically, that's what they should be right now.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's frustrating. I think they will be good in the next couple of years here, once they figure out this coaching thing and just have a couple good drafts, especially for the O-line and for the defense. Because I do think that Justin Herbert is really good, or could be, if he isn't now, whatever. So
he's my offensive rookie of the year right now. I'll get to the guy
oh
who
yeah,
deserves defensive rookie in the year in a bit. He's also in the same division as the Atlanta Falcons. Brandon, go ahead. Raheem Morris, 4-2, as the interim head coach of this Atlanta Falcons team.
Yeah, crazy how when you bring in a new coach, it changes things. Obviously, I mean, I don't know what it is, but they're doing something different. I really don't know what it is, but they're just playing better.
It's really funny. This Atlanta Falcons team is super funny to me, because the same thing happened last year, did it not?
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, Dan Quinn, they wanted to keep his job, so they started playing like not amazingly well, not as well as they're playing now. I mean, they played a Raiders team that I think we all still believe has an amazing offense. They just kind of flopped today. But it is kind of that thing. It's like, okay, we wanted to keep Anthony Lynn around, then we kind of went off, and then we lost Anthony Lynn, and then we kind of went off. It seemed like the first half of the season, this team just kind of flops. In the second half, they start kind of being what we expect them to be, which is honestly the Atlanta Falcons, because that team has a lot of talent. And hey, they were in the Super Bowl, 3-4 years ago. This team is basically constructed the same way pretty much. We expect them to play at this level. It's just, it isn't there until the second half of the season, I guess, the last couple of years. But I don't know. Maybe Raheem Morris is that guy long term. Brandon, what do you think? Is he the guy?
Yeah, I think he's showing himself to be the guy. I think they need some more pieces, but
especially on defense.
Yeah, but I think he's a good starting piece.
Shane, your thoughts on what Raheem Morris has done with this group so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think if he, I want to see rest of the season what happens if they continue to. Not that I wanted to win every game, but if they've got 5 games left. If they can even go 3-2, considering how they started, I mean, hey, I'll take that as a success for him. So yeah, I do. As of right now, yeah, I mean, I like what we're seeing with him. If they can, like I said, if they can win some more games, I mean, I think he is definitely worth keeping around, at least for next year, if they, if nothing else. So, we'll see. It should be interesting.
Mm-hmm. With the Raiders, do you both agree with me that this was kind of a fluky game for them? Because it didn't feel right today.
I'd say so. I mean, you look at them, they have, they're the only team that's beat the Chiefs. They almost beat them a second time, and they've offensively, they've done really well against, some pretty good defenses. And so, I think, I mean, most teams, or every team pretty much, has that one game every year, or even 2 games. It's like, whoa, what happened there? And I think it just kind of seems like that was this one, So, yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried about them. Defensively, they obviously weren't great, but, I do think Atlanta's offense is better than people give them credit for. And so, I wasn't totally shocked that they put up, 36 points, I think. So, yeah, the only real concern there for me is on offense. But like I said, it's not a huge worry for me. It just looked like they were just kind of out of it for me. But yeah.
Brandon, you feel the same way with this Raiders team?
Yeah. I think it was definitely a fluke, you know.
Yeah, it didn't feel right, I think, right from the opening bell, and they'll definitely come back next week. Let's go on to that player I made a tease for, Jeremy Chin. Woo! That guy has been phenomenal at the safety position, second-round pick in this year's draft. Didn't think much of him coming out, but they put him at that safety spot. I think where Eric Reed played last year, and he has been phenomenal. Just all over the field, getting balls, pretty much, honestly, kind of a ball hawk guy this year in some way, especially in this game. How about this? The Vikings, they had 2 possessions or 2 plays, and on those 2 plays, 2 fumbles for Jeremy Chin. I believe 2 fumbles for touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, but it might have been 1. I'm just kind of confused at the moment. But even so, he has been absolutely phenomenal and deserves the Defensive Rookie of the Year at this time. But again, 3 takeaways for Minnesota, and they find a way to win. That is virtually impossible in this league. Brandon, your thoughts on the Vikings kind of staying in the playoff chase with that win?
Yeah, I don't know. I just, the Vikings don't make me think that they're gonna even make the playoffs, because they're so up and down and off and on. I just don't see it.
I think it's important to note too that even though it was impressive that they won with the 3 turnovers and without Adam Thielen, it was the Panthers.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they obviously don't have a very good defense. Offensively, they, they look fine, I would say. They kind of like the Chargers, can't always get it done.
They're playing tough, though. I mean, we thought they would be in a rebuild. They're really not. They're playing super tough this year.
Yeah. Yep. And, I thought their offense was ready to go, personally. But everybody said I was crazy with Teddy B. That's something. I don't mean to toot my own horn here, but every time I have like quarterback hot takes, they always end up being right, and I'm just really proud of myself for that. But anyways,
was Herbert one of your hot take quarterbacks though?
Well, no, not so much in terms of like rookies and how they're gonna play, but like once I see a guy in the league for a year or 2 and kind of what they're doing, I can tell like, oh yeah, they're gonna be great or they're gonna suck. Like Jimmy G, never bought into him. Everyone said I was crazy. Carson Wentz, never bought into him. Everyone said I was nuts. Josh Allen, I thought he was great. Everyone said I was nuts.
I was on with the Josh Allen.
Teddy B, I thought he was amazing. Everyone was like, he's okay. Well, now he's doing great.
He's pretty good, I would
say.
But
anyways,
considering that
team. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest. I was expecting this to be a complete flop by the Vikings. I really was. I mean, it just was. It was totally laid out for him to be that way with, because no Adam Thielen. I was like, okay, well, what they have Justin Jefferson and
Chad Beebe.
Yeah, so they're probably going to run it like 35 times, and then Dalvin Cook's going to get hurt, and then Cousins isn't going to know what to do because it's Kirk Cousins. And then Carolina's going to go in there with their great offense, do their thing, and roll them. And yet the Vikings still had all their turnovers and still won somehow. I don't know how.
Kurt actually played well, and he's gonna probably play pretty well the rest of the year.
No, he looked all right, which is good for him. But yeah, I don't know. It was just a strange game, but they remain in the playoff hunt, I guess. I don't mean, I'm with you guys. I don't think they make it, but they are still in the hunt. So that's that.
Yeah, it's interesting, both the Titans and the Vikings with the top two running backs in the league, how dependent they are on the running game just in general, and how difficult that is to watch because you want to see Tannehill and Cousins do more. To finish off with the Panthers, I definitely see a future here with Matt Rule. Clearly, he's built programs from the ground up. It doesn't seem like he even is doing that with this team, which is incredibly impressive. This team is competitive and wants to find a way to win every week. So
I think they will. They're thing about this team is they are really young, really, really young. I mean, like half the starters on defense are rookies. So it's, if you get a couple good free agencies and drafts, which I think Matt Rule is capable of, let those guys develop and play together for a little bit. I think this team is gonna end up being really good, especially if Christian McCaffrey's still there. If Teddy Bridgewater continues to, be consistent, yeah, I think they're definitely going to be a team to watch out for because I don't think New Orleans is gonna be that big of a deal in a couple of years.
When Taysom Hill's the starter, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like they're going to lose some other guys because of that, and I don't know. And Tampa, I don't know what the hell we're going on with Tampa, but and same with Atlanta. So I don't know. This is going to be an exciting division, though. I think for the next 5-6 years here, just seeing how all these different teams kind of come and go. So.
Yeah. Brannan, this Carolina team has been fun, and do you agree with Shane that there's sort of a bright future with this team?
Yeah. I think Carolina, the stuff they're doing this year, they're looking good. They got good pieces. I think picking up Teddy Bridgewater was a big pickup. It'll be interesting to see what positions they kind of fill in the draft coming up. But yeah.
I have a claim about the Bucks to finish off today's show.
All right.
The Buccaneers are the Cardinals, but with a defense.
That's sort of fair.
So the Cardinals.
Okay. Yeah.
So the Cardinals, right? Like today was like terrible for the Cardinals. They didn't have any offense for 4 quarters, but they normally have an offense in the 4th quarter, right? And we know that defense is honestly terrible. I'm definitely kind of out on that Arizona train. Kind of probably hyped that up a bit too much.
Well, okay. Can I revise your claim?
Okay, revise it.
They're the Cardinals with a rushing defense.
The Cardinals with the rushing defense. I think overall their defense is very good.
Their pass defense is hit or miss.
I guess. I guess fine. Rushing defense, I think, is more fair. But
anyways,
the last 2 weeks have sort of described the Bucs offense. They're not good for 3 quarters, but they're good in the 4th, just like Arizona. And hey, to win a Super Bowl, Tampa Bay, or let's throw out this message to Tom Brady. Throw the ball to Chris Godwin in short routes, and then throw touchdowns to Mike Evans. That's how you win a Super Bowl. That's it. That's literally all you have to do. It's that simple, It feels, and yet they only do it in the 4th quarter, and it's exhausting, and it's honestly to the point of just like hilarity to see the first 3 quarters of these games because these receivers just drop balls all the time. But obviously,
you wouldn't expect from them,
right? But it's not only that. Like Brady is playing bad. It's not just the drop balls. Like Brady is playing bad, but. Yeah,
he's not great.
For me, the Bucs are the Cardinals, and I guess I'll revise my claim to it, Shane. They're the Cardinals with the rushing defense, and that's it.
I'm glad you were influenced by my opinion.
Brandon, your thoughts on my claim comparing Arizona to Tampa?
Yeah, I think Arizona, when they're healthy, has played slightly better offense. But it's a pretty fair
Mm-hmm.
statement.
Well, yeah, Arizona with a defense and an old, slow quarterback.
Right, but I mean, yeah, like let's go to this too because we were talking about the Bucks a lot this week, and we always have on our shows this week. They kind of been the big team, the big topic for everyone nationally. Um, Brady has 100% regressed. And he's not the same quarterback. And we have individually had and as a group have conversations about that this week. Brandon, you talk about Brady and sort of his regression because I know that you said you kind of saw this happening a bit last year too.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like last year I said this to anybody who would listen, and most people just called me a hater, but he just didn't have the killer instinct that he used to have, and I mean, he's just every game really I watch him, he's gone downhill with everything about his play. Um, yeah,
Mhm.
he's just not. I think it's over for him. He's not even in his prime anymore. He's like nearing the bottom of the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
He's like MJ with the Wizards.
That's
Yeah.
what if even Peyton with the Broncos, but the Broncos had a historic defense.
And like I said, he
Well,
should just
Peyton was still
retire.
good his first couple years there.
Yeah, I'm talking about
Really
the
good,
year when he
actually.
actually won the Super Bowl
Oh,
when he
yeah.
got benched for Brock Osweiler.
But that was after 4 years, you know?
Yeah.
Like that wasn't, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, before we get to that historical footnote, there's a couple of things with Brady that frustrate me. I guess there is one main thing. This was more visible last week during Monday Night Football than this week in this game. His vision is not good. There were situations in that game on Monday night. I don't know if I talked about this earlier. I might not, but like there were plays in that Rams game where you just go, oh my God, why did he throw that? Like the safety was going to maneuver there and pick it off. I think his vision is I don't know what's up there. But he made a bunch of rookie mistakes in that Rams game. And today I felt like there was a bit more of the whole drop ball issue, which is a huge problem with this team in the receiving core and in the running back room as well. But yeah, I do feel like Brady's definitely regressed. Shane, go ahead.
I mean, I've just always thought he was, it's no secret. I've always thought he's been very, very overrated. Which I know is an unpopular opinion, but I don't know. I just never, I was thinking that, like most people, I was thinking, okay, he's, you know, going to a new environment. It's going to be good for him. You know, he got all these great threats, you know, Godwin, Evans, whatever. You know, it'll be much better, even if he's regressing, which, I mean, I thought he was, but I was like, even though he is, you know, I'm sure he still is going to at least look as good as he did last year, just because of everybody around him. But even I, the Tom Brady skeptic, was not expecting this kind of a drop off. You know, I mean, at first he really wasn't looking that bad. It's just been in the last like 3 or 4 games. But the thing is, he hasn't come out of it, which I figured he would have. So I don't know what the deal is. I mean, I think, you know, like you were saying, he's just regressed. Which, you know, it's which is too bad, but I mean, he is what, 43 is,
Yeah.
you know, it's bound to happen at some point. So
yeah. I keep going back to last year, right? I keep going back to that Tennessee game, that wild card game. And I'm looking back at that game, and yeah, all last year we're talking about, oh man, this receiving core isn't good, and it still isn't very good in New England, even with Cam. But Shane, do you think we missed the regression point for Tom Brady? Do you think we missed a little bit of that last year? Do you think that the bad receiving core kind of masked a lot of that regression last year? Because I'm starting to believe that was the case.
I mean, I thought it was a bit of both, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like that may have very well been the case. Yeah. I mean, it's also, I think part of it also has to do with the fact that it's no secret that he wasn't really happy in New England his last few years there. Could have been longer. I mean, for all we know. But anyways, and so I don't know. It's interesting. I just think even if this divorce, quote unquote, hasn't worked out well for either of them being Tom or Bill, I think it kind of needed to happen because it brought a lot of clarity to what was going on there and also just who they are as competitors.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's clear now that, at least to me, that it felt like almost like they needed each other to be as successful as they were.
Mm-hmm.
And the part that's weird to me is that we'll never really know if that's actually the case because we're never going to see Brady again in his prime. So I don't know. This is just weird. It's a very strange situation. I'll be honest. I would love to see Belichick go to the Chargers. I know that won't happen, but I would if I were him. I mean, hell, 68. It's like, well, let's go hang out in the nice warm sun.
That's what Brady was thinking.
With a good up and coming team, I can dip my hands into and work with a real quarterback like Herbert, unlike what's his name? Yeah. Newton. Yeah.
Brandon, your thoughts on Shane's sentiment and sort of this Bill Belichick, Tom Brady sort of divorced, quote unquote, that we keep discussing.
I mean, I have nothing left to say about it. I've already talked about it. I've already covered it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I think we've covered it before.
Yeah. It's definitely more specific now after 12 weeks for sure. Let's go to our fantasy stars. I think we have a winner for performance of the year in the fantasy star MVP. Tyreek Hill put on a show today. 57.9 points. Up there with some of the historical greats. Jerry Rice with 65. Must have been fun playing against Jerry Rice on that faithful day, but in your fantasy league. But 57.9. What an incredible performance.
Yeah. Yeah, we're even gonna have other nominees for this week, or
I
no?
don't think any. I mean,
nobody else.
There's really Derrick Henry, sure. Maybe Justin Jefferson with his performance. Mahomes. I know that for Thanksgiving night, I think we'll give that one up to Gibson for his performance. But no, I don't think anyone else deserves to be considered. That was remarkable.
Yeah.
You're always going to have the one sort of 50 burger performances, right? Will Fuller had one last year. I know Tyler Lockett had one this year, but this one was just bigger than all of them. It felt like it was just incredible to watch.
260 yards.
13 receptions, 269 yards, and 3 TDs. What was it? 214 in the first half or something?
That is just no. It was it was 200 in the first quarter.
Yeah,
which is just nuts. I mean, that is insanity. But
Shane and I are currently in the playoff push in our fantasy league. Brandon now has the role of trying to take me down next week, to take me out of the playoffs pretty much. If I'm not already out of it at what it would this be 6-5 currently. Shane, you had some thoughts about the trades that you made this year.
You know, I kind of regretted them earlier today. And now I'm looking at it and it's like, well, I guess it worked out okay. But, I think I was just overreacting a bit since I did not have Julio Jones or Adam Thielen today. So I was a little frustrated.
You picked up Thielen in a trade that involved Diggs and Chase Edmonds last week.
Yeah, and then I got Julio Jones also in a trade. So I was like,
from MT.
So I was like, if I hadn't done that, these guys wouldn't be on here, and I would have two good receivers playing today. But I didn't end up meeting them anyways. So
MT would have gotten you 9.1. So
yeah, because I played Tanner, who by the way, Tanner, we are so glad you're doing well after your surgery.
Yes, 100%. Shout out to our boy Tanner. Well, can't wait to have him back on the show again soon as well.
Yeah, and yeah, but I was worried because he still has Russell Wilson playing tomorrow, which could be dangerous. But
you have Chris Carson tomorrow too.
Yeah, and I have Ebron on Tuesday, so. Mm-hmm. But I'm up by like 15 points right now, so.
Yeah, okay, honestly, I don't get what's up with Tanner's games because every week they seem to be super low scoring for some reason. I don't know if that's just the coincidence when I deeply look at his matchups.
Mason.
Yeah.
Mason's very low scoring.
Yeah, but this matchup has been so weird to look at all day.
Yeah.
I'm playing David this week, which is super fun. Obviously, playing David or Paul, the two brothers, is super fun and also super stressful. You saw from me last week playing against Paul. Yeah, I mean, MT, I don't know. It's been tough with him. It's been a roller coaster, but we'll figure it out, I think. Yeah, David did a pretty good job with his lineup. Kenyon Drake balled out. Zeke, yeah. Probably should have started Wayne Gallman, but like, come on, I'm not gonna look with Zeke. That's a tough situation moving forward for him.
I know.
So we'll see.
Oh,
It's been brutal. But yeah, I mean, look, I dealt with this with Paul last week, so I guess it's only fitting that I deal with this with David. That I got to worry about Tyler Lockett and Dallas Goedert, who we just got from Paul actually this week. Brandon, your overall thoughts on your team as you're coming to the home stretch of your season with 1 week left?
It's been an unfortunate season. One full of injuries and despair, sadness. It's at one point I thought of naming my team the Valley of Death because any player who came to my team for a 3-week stretch got injured. I mean, heck, I remember Shane, you traded me friggin'
Dak Prescott.
The week he
got hurt.
And then you got rid of Gardner Minshew. You also had in that trade, I believe.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't need this guy anymore. Release.
So. Yeah.
I felt like such a nice guy doing that. I was like, yeah, I'm helping my friend out, giving him a good quarterback, and then
I was
like,
you tainted his muscles, and then he broke his leg.
That's definitely what happened. Yeah.
Here's what's so amazing about Brandon's team, though. He's been remarkably tough to play.
Yeah.
Like he has. Like it's really like. Yeah, and in Brandon, it proves your point. Like, this team is actually good. If you didn't have the injuries, you probably would be pretty centered in a playoff spot right now compared to the rest of us.
I've stuck with that from day one. Like the team, I've maneuvered the team in a way that if I didn't have the injuries, like the thing is, if you think about it, if I didn't have the injuries, and I picked up James Conner from you, which is the one move I really made at the beginning of the year that I needed was to pick up James Conner. I would have been set without the injuries. It's just week in and week out. I had something making me avoid having a full team to put out there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's been a weird. I think just the simple fact that the running back position has been so bad in terms of depth. Now, obviously, our league just in general, all 10 players really are really good. Just in general, we all pretty much know what we're doing. We have a good grasp on like what's going on in the league just in totality. Everyone in the league is amazing, right? But it's also the running back injuries. I don't think everyone's in this 6-4, 6-5. I don't even think the fact is look at the division. I mean, the East is insane. The West is not as wild, but I don't think the division would be as crazy as it is. I don't think the records would be as crazy as it is if it wasn't for those running back injuries. I think it really also changed it, along with the fact that everyone in the league is very good and competitive.
I mean, at one point, seven of the 10 teams in our league were tied at 6-4.
That was last week.
Yeah. I was like, what? How did this happen? But, yeah. Do what you will with that.
We have a fantasy basketball league coming up here in a few weeks as we're getting ready for the NBA season. So we'll have that all sort of squared away, and we will have another draft show for that coming up pretty much right before Christmas, or at least a week before potentially. So that's going to be a super fun and festive day. So another draft show, which the football show that we did for the draft was incredible. So this should be really great as well to get into fantasy basketball. We're doing head-to-head categories. Yeah, more content. We're doing head-to-head categories. So super excited for that as well. It's going to be crazy. So especially that we have an extended bench because of the whole situation with COVID and everything. So it's going to be wild, the depth of our bench and everything else. And of course, Emily being as competitive as it is, it's pretty much everyone from the football league or close to everyone. So that's going to be crazy as well. So that is it for today. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Brandon, for a great show as always. And we will see you guys back normal schedule as we're finishing up before we get to Christmas on Friday. So we'll see you guys then. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.
See you in December.
See ya.
Yes, December. Crazy that we're in December already. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. All right. We'll see you all on Friday.